Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
You've been working hard, staying late, and impressing your boss. And then it happens. You get promoted. At first, it feels like a dream come true. Finally, recognition for all your effort. But as the first day in your new role begins, the excitement quickly fades. Emails flood in, meetings pile up, and tasks appear that you don't even know how to do. Suddenly, you're drowning in responsibilities, and the fear of failure creeps in. How do you survive when you feel completely unqualified? How do you ask for help without looking weak, or worse, risking your job? This is the story of learning to survive, adapt, and grow when thrown into a role you never expected. It started like any other Monday morning. You walked into the office, coffee in hand, expecting a regular day of emails and meetings. But today was different. Your manager had called you into their office for a quick chat. As you stepped inside, you noticed the smile on their face. "Congratulations," they said, handing you a folded piece of paper. "You've been promoted." Your heart skipped a beat. For a moment, you couldn't speak. Promotion. The word echoed in your mind like a drumbeat of excitement and fear all at once. Thank you," you finally managed to say, trying to sound confident. Inside, your thoughts were racing. "Me? Really? I don't know if I'm ready for this." Your manager continued, outlining your new responsibilities. You nodded, smiled, and even laughed at the right moments. But the more they spoke, the heavier your chest felt. Reports, projects, deadlines, meetings, it all sounded like a language you didn't understand. You left the office with a mix of emotions: pride, disbelief, and anxiety. Your coworkers congratulated you, clapping on your back and saying things like, "You deserve it," and "Well done." You smiled and thanked them, but inside, a small voice whispered, "Do I really deserve this? What if I fail?" On the way back to your desk, you sat down and looked at your inbox. New tasks, new responsibilities, new expectations. It all seemed overwhelming. You opened a spreadsheet and saw columns you didn't recognize, formulas you'd never used, and notes in a style you didn't understand. You tried to focus, but your mind kept wandering. How am I going to do this? What if I make a mistake? Will my boss notice? By lunchtime, the initial excitement had faded completely. The promotion felt less like a reward and more like a challenge that seemed bigger than you could handle. You sipped your coffee slowly, trying to calm your nerves. "Okay," you said to yourself quietly, "I can do this. I just need to figure out how." Little did you know, this was only the beginning. The real challenge wasn't getting the promotion, it was surviving it. The excitement of the promotion slowly wore off as you sat at your desk, staring at the flood of new tasks on your screen. Your inbox had tripled overnight, filled with emails marked urgent, deadline today, and please review. You tried to take a deep breath, telling yourself, "I can handle this. I've managed before. I can do it again." But as you opened your first spreadsheet, the numbers and formulas blurred together. You didn't even know where to start. Your first task was a report due by the end of the day. You clicked through the files, reading vague notes left by your predecessor. Some instructions didn't make sense. Others were missing entirely. Your mind raced. How am I supposed to finish this? During your first meeting as a manager, things only got more overwhelming. People were talking about metrics, KPIs, and strategies in a language that sounded almost foreign. You nodded and took notes, trying to keep up, but inside, panic was rising. After the meeting, you returned to your desk and attempted to tackle the first task. Hours passed, and progress was slow. Every time you solved one problem, two more appeared. You started making small mistakes, typos in emails, misplaced numbers in spreadsheets, forgetting to reply to a client message. By late afternoon, a sinking feeling settled in. Your phone buzzed with a message from your manager. "How's the report coming along?" Your stomach twisted. Should you admit you're struggling, or pretend you're fine and risk a bigger mistake? You decided to ask a coworker for help. You hesitated before typing, "Hey, can you give me some guidance on the report? I'm a bit stuck." Your finger hovered over the send button. Will they think I'm incompetent? After a tense few minutes, the reply came, "Of course, let's go through it together." Relief washed over you, but it came with a small sting of embarrassment. You had always been independent, solving problems on your own. Asking for help felt like admitting defeat. By the end of the day, you had completed the report. Messy, imperfect, but done. You leaned back in your chair, exhausted and mentally drained. This is going to be harder than I thought, you realized. The promotion that once felt like a dream now felt like a challenge that could swallow you whole. And yet, despite the fear and frustration, a small spark of determination remained. I will figure this out, somehow. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The next morning, you arrived at the office with a sense of dread. The first day of the promotion had ended, but the weight of your new responsibilities hadn't lifted. Your desk was already piled with new assignments, emails, and reminders. You tried to start with the easiest task, thinking it would give you a boost, but even that simple project seemed complicated now. Every file you opened brought more questions than answers. The instructions were vague, the data incomplete, and your confidence slowly slipping away. Your phone buzzed with another message from a team member. "Do you have time to review this before the client meeting?" You looked at the document and felt your chest tighten. You didn't even know where to start. If I don't respond, will they think I'm lazy? If I say yes, can I actually do it correctly? Meetings became a blur. Colleagues were talking about strategies, metrics, and client expectations at a pace that felt impossible to follow. You nodded, took notes, smiled at the right moments, but inside, confusion and panic were building. Everyone seems to know what they're doing, and I don't. By lunchtime, your anxiety was peaking. You opened a new task, but after 5 minutes of staring at the screen, your mind went blank. You leaned back in your chair, rubbing your temples. I can't do this. I'm drowning. I'm gonna get fired. You decided to take a short walk to clear your head. Outside, the cold air hit your face, and you tried to breathe deeply. You reminded yourself, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. I just need a plan. But even the plan was unclear. Which task should come first? Who can I trust to help me? How do I avoid making mistakes that could cost my job? Returning to your desk, you realized you couldn't keep pretending. You needed guidance. Swallowing your pride, you sent a message to a trusted coworker. I'm really struggling with this task. Can we go over it together? The response was quicker than you expected. Sure, let's schedule 30 minutes this afternoon. You'll get it. Relief and shame mixed together. You were grateful, but also embarrassed that you couldn't manage on your own. As the afternoon passed, you worked with your coworkers step by step. Slowly, the task started to make sense. Small victories gave you tiny sparks of hope, but by the end of the day, exhaustion had replaced that hope. Your brain felt fried, your eyes sore from staring at spreadsheets, and your confidence still shaky. You left the office thinking, I'm barely keeping my head above water. How long before I sink completely? And yet, somewhere deep down, you knew you had to keep going. This was more than just a job now. It was a test of resilience, patience, and courage. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, and somehow, you had to survive. By the fourth day in your new role, the pressure had become almost unbearable. Your desk was piled high with tasks, emails, and reports, and every notification made your heart race. You were trying your best, but the mistakes were starting to slip in. It happened during a routine email to a client. You had copied and pasted the wrong figures into the spreadsheet, not noticing until the email was already sent. Instantly, your stomach sank. Oh no, they're going to see this. They're going to think I'm incompetent. The client replied within the hour, politely pointing out the error. You felt your face heat up. You knew you had to correct it quickly, but fear and panic made it hard to focus. You reread the spreadsheet a dozen times, each second stretching longer than the last. Your manager called you into their office. You walked in slowly, bracing yourself for disappointment. "I saw the email," they said calmly. "It's okay. Mistakes happen, but we need to be more careful moving forward." For a moment, you wanted to cry. You had been working so hard, trying to keep up, and yet one small mistake made you feel like a failure. The embarrassment gnawed at you, and doubts crept in. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I shouldn't have been promoted. Back at your desk, you couldn't concentrate. Every task felt heavier now, every email a potential trap. You triple-checked every number, every sentence, every detail, trying to avoid another mistake, but the fear of failure was exhausting. During your lunch break, you reflected on what had happened. You realized two things. 1, mistakes are part of learning. 2, you can't do this alone. You need support, guidance, and patience with yourself. That evening, you stayed late, reviewing tutorials and taking notes. You created a checklist to avoid repeating the same error. Slowly, the panic subsided, replaced with a cautious determination. You left the office feeling drained, but slightly more prepared. The first mistake had shaken you, but it had also taught a valuable lesson. Acknowledging mistakes and learning from them is better than pretending everything is perfect. Tomorrow, you promised yourself, you would try again, but smarter, more careful, and with the courage to ask for help when needed. After the email mistake, the thought kept nagging at you, "I can't keep doing this alone." The tasks were piling up, deadlines were looming, and your confidence was slipping further. You knew you needed help, but asking for it felt like admitting defeat. All morning, you wrestled with yourself. What if my coworkers think I'm incompetent? What if my manager loses confidence in me? Every scenario seemed worse than the last, but deep down, you knew the alternative, struggling silently and making bigger mistakes, was far worse. Finally, you took a deep breath and typed a message to a trusted colleague. "Hi, do you have a few minutes to go over this project with me? I'm not sure I'm doing it correctly and could really use your guidance." Your finger hovered over the send button. Heart racing, you clicked. Almost immediately, a reply came. "Of course, let's meet in the break room at 2 p.m. We'll go through it together step by step." Relief washed over you, but it came with a twinge of embarrassment. You walked to the break room, trying to hide your nerves. When your colleague greeted you, they smiled warmly. "They're not judging me. They're here to help." For the next hour, they patiently explained each part of the project. They showed you shortcuts, highlighted key points, and answered your questions without making you feel stupid. Step by step, the tasks started to make sense. "See?" they said, smiling. "You just needed someone to guide you. You're capable, you just needed a little help." Hearing those words, a weight lifted off your shoulders. Asking for help didn't make you weak, it made you stronger. You realized that collaboration was not a sign of failure, but a tool for success. Back at your desk, you felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the guidance you'd received, you completed the project more confidently than you expected. You even double-checked your work with your colleague before sending it off. By the end of the day, you reflected. "Today was hard, but I survived, and I didn't do it alone. Asking for help was the smartest move I could make." For the first time since the promotion, you felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, you could handle this job. One step, one lesson, and one small victory at a time. After asking for help, things didn't magically become easy, but they became manageable. You realized that surviving this promotion meant learning fast, adapting, and being patient with yourself. You started arriving at the office a bit earlier, giving yourself time to review tasks before the chaos of the day began. You created lists, color-coded priorities, and kept a notebook filled with tips, shortcuts, and lessons you picked up from your colleagues. Each small note became a tool for survival. During meetings, instead of panicking, you began taking careful notes. You asked clarifying questions like, "Can you explain that step again?" Or, "What's the priority here?" At first it was awkward, but slowly people appreciated your effort. They saw someone willing to learn, not someone who was helpless. One afternoon, your manager dropped a new project on your desk, a challenging one that had been delayed for weeks. Panic hit you at first. "I can't do this. It's too big. What if I mess it up again?" But then you remembered the lesson from last week. It's okay to ask for help. You reached out to a colleague with experience on similar projects. Together, you brainstormed solutions, divided the work into steps, and set mini deadlines. Step by step, the project started to take shape. By the end of the week, you had completed the task ahead of schedule. Your manager praised your work. "Great job. I can see you're really learning the ropes." Hearing that gave you a rush of confidence. For the first time, you felt like maybe you could handle this role. Each small success began to build momentum. You learned software shortcuts, remembered client preferences, and even started anticipating problems before they happened. Mistakes still happened, but now, instead of panic, you approached them as learning opportunities. At the end of the day, you reflected, "I may not know everything yet, but I'm learning, and learning is progress." That evening, you left the office feeling tired but satisfied. The fear that had consumed you in the first week had started to loosen its grip. You realized something important. Competence doesn't appear overnight. It grows slowly, one lesson, one task, one small victory at a time. And with that, you knew the journey was just beginning, but you were finally ready to take it one step at a time. Not everyone in the office noticed your progress. Some coworkers had been skeptical from the start, and whispers began circulating. You overheard snippets in the hallway. "Can they really handle the role?" And, "I heard they're still asking for help on basic tasks." At first, the words stung. You felt exposed, embarrassed, and small. Every glance seemed critical. Every meeting felt like a test, and every comment from a coworker seemed like judgment. Your confidence wavered. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong here. During lunch, you sat quietly, picking at your food while replaying the office gossip in your mind. But then you remembered something important. "I've made mistakes, yes, but I've also learned, adapted, and completed projects. I've grown." That afternoon, a coworker approached your desk with a new task. Normally, you might have hesitated or panicked, but this time you smiled and said, "Thanks, I'll take a look and let you know if I need help." It was a small victory. Instead of shrinking under scrutiny, you faced the situation calmly and confidently. Later, during a team meeting, a senior colleague criticized a project you had worked on. Your first instinct was to feel defensive, but instead, you listened carefully, took notes, and asked, "Can you show me how to improve this for next time?" The senior colleague raised an eyebrow but explained patiently. Afterward, you realized facing criticism doesn't mean failure. It's an opportunity to learn. Your approach began to shift. Instead of fearing judgment, you started seeing it as a tool for growth. By the end of the week, you noticed subtle changes. Some colleagues who had doubted you began asking for your opinion on smaller tasks. Others nodded when you spoke in meetings. It wasn't immediate respect, but it was progress. That evening, you reflected. "I can't control what others think, but I can control how I respond." Resilience is about keeping going even when people doubt you. For the first time since your promotion, you felt a quiet strength growing inside. You were learning not just the work, but how to survive the office politics, criticism, and pressure. Tomorrow, you would take another step forward. The judgment of others no longer had the power to stop you. It was just another challenge to overcome. Weeks had passed since the promotion, and things were slowly changing. The chaos and panic that had consumed your first days were fading, replaced by a cautious confidence. You were still learning, still making mistakes, but now mistakes felt like stepping stones instead of traps. It started with a small project. You double-checked your work, applied the lessons you had learned, and submitted it on time. To your surprise, your manager praised it. "Great job. This is exactly what we needed." The words filled you with a mix of relief and pride. That small win reminded you that you were capable and the progress, even gradual, mattered. Encouraged, you tackled a slightly bigger project. You planned each step, asked for guidance when necessary, and monitored every detail. This time, the process felt more natural. When you completed the project, your team noticed. One coworker said, "Wow, this is really well done. Nice work." For the first time, you realized something important. Success doesn't always come in big leaps. Often, it comes in small victories, finishing a project without errors, learning a new software shortcut, or communicating effectively in a meeting. Even better, your small wins started creating momentum. Your confidence grew, and your approach to challenges became more proactive. Instead of dreading tasks, you approached them with curiosity. What can I learn here? How can I do this better? During a team meeting, your manager asked for volunteers for a high-stakes project. You raised your hand. In the past, you would have hesitated, fearing failure, but now you were ready. You spoke up confidently, explaining your ideas clearly. Your voice carried weight. For the first time, you felt like a real leader in the room. By the end of the week, you reflected on your progress. You had learned to ask for help, face criticism, and approach tasks strategically. You had started to gain the respect of your coworkers and the trust of your manager. As you left the office that Friday, you felt something you hadn't in weeks: pride. Not just for the work you had done, but for how far you had come. The promotion that once felt like an impossible burden was slowly becoming an opportunity, a chance to grow, learn, and prove to yourself that you belonged. And deep down, you knew this was only the beginning. By now, the office no longer felt like an overwhelming maze of tasks and confusion. You had learned the ropes, made mistakes, asked for help when needed, and celebrated small wins. Slowly, your confidence was growing, and so was the respect of your team. It started with small moments. A colleague asked for your opinion on a client strategy. Another invited you to help review a project before it was sent. You realized that people weren't just noticing your work, they were noticing your effort, your willingness to learn, and your persistence. One day, your manager assigned you a complex project that involved coordinating with multiple teams. In the past, this would have terrified you, but now you approached it with a plan. You organized tasks, set deadlines, and delegated responsibilities. You communicated clearly and asked for updates without micromanaging. The project progressed smoothly. When it was delivered successfully, your manager praised not only your work, but also your leadership. You handled this project very well. The team responded positively, and everything was delivered on time. Excellent work leading this effort. For the first time, you realized something crucial. Being promoted wasn't just about completing tasks, it was about leading, inspiring, and building trust. Your role wasn't to do everything yourself, but to guide others, make smart decisions, and take responsibility. Even your colleagues who had been skeptical started to change their tone. During a meeting, one of them said, "I didn't expect this approach to work, but it really did. Nice job." That simple acknowledgement felt like a victory. It wasn't about proving them wrong, it was about proving to yourself that you had grown. By now, you could handle tasks independently, mentor junior team members, and anticipate problems before they happened. Your days were still busy, but the fear and panic of your first week were gone. You had transformed from someone overwhelmed by responsibility to someone capable of leading it. That evening, as you reflected on your journey, you realized the truth. Promotions aren't just about titles, they're about resilience, learning, and earning respect through action. You had not only survived the challenges, but had grown stronger, smarter, and more confident. Tomorrow, you would face new challenges, but now you were ready. Sitting at your desk on a quiet Friday evening, you finally had a moment to breathe. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of tasks, mistakes, guidance, and victories. You leaned back in your chair, reflecting on the journey that had started with excitement and fear. When you first received the promotion, it felt like a dream. But the dream quickly turned into a challenge that seemed too big to handle. Emails, meetings, projects, and deadlines had swallowed you whole. You had felt lost, overwhelmed, and unqualified. And yet, here you were. You had survived. More than that, you had grown. You thought about the lessons you had learned. 1. It's okay to ask for help. Reaching out to colleagues and mentors didn't make you weak, it made you stronger. 2. Mistakes are part of learning. Every error was a lesson, not a failure. 3. Small wins matter. Completing a task correctly, understanding a new process, or helping a teammate built confidence over time. 4. Resilience matters more than perfection. There were days you wanted to give up, but persistence carried you forward. 5. Respect is earned, not given. By showing effort, leadership, and honesty, you gained the trust of your team. Looking back, you realized that promotions aren't just about skills, they're about growth, patience, and courage. You hadn't just learned a new role, you had learned yourself. You discovered that even when you feel unqualified, determination, humility, and effort can carry you through challenges you once thought impossible. As you closed your laptop and prepared to leave the office, you felt a sense of pride. Not pride in the title, not pride in the paycheck, but pride in your journey, from fear to competence, from doubt to confidence. The promotion had been daunting, even terrifying, but it had also been a gift, a chance to learn, adapt, and grow. You had survived the unqualified feeling, and in doing so, you had discovered your true potential. And now, with a calm mind and a stronger heart, you were ready for whatever came next. Congratulations! You made it to the end of the story. The journey of an unqualified promotion wasn't easy, full of mistakes, doubts, and challenges, but it taught valuable lessons about resilience, growth, and asking for help. Remember, everyone starts somewhere, and it's okay to feel unprepared. What matters is your willingness to learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. Small steps, small wins, and patience with yourself can transform any challenge into an opportunity. Use this story as inspiration in your own work life. Practice the phrases, the expressions, and the vocabulary you heard. Imagine yourself handling difficult tasks, asking for help confidently, and learning on the job. Every day is a chance to grow. Thank you for listening and learning with us. Keep practicing, stay confident, and remember, challenges are just opportunities in disguise.